Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, members and guests. We have an apology from the chairperson, Ms. Sangoni, who's currently dealing with the ad hoc committee. And in that instance, I will request Mr. Subrati to take the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Hajira, and good afternoon, honorable members. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm sitting in the Masjid Al-Quds in Cape Town. We just finished our Friday prayer. It's been a busy day for myself. I had a portfolio committee at 8, then the house sitting at 10, and at 2 o'clock, the portfolio committee. So we are really working hard. Thank you all and welcome to this portfolio committee meeting this afternoon, this Friday afternoon. Ajira, may I request that you flight the agenda? And whilst flighting that, let me just indicate to me if the minister has joined. Let me join and welcome the minister if he's on the call.
Afternoon, Mr. Subrati. Mr. Subrati, we have an apology for the minister who has prior commitments, but the deputy minister will be here, although the deputy minister will arrive late. Thank you.
Thank you, Hajira. Colleagues, so we have the agenda before us. I've welcomed you all. The agenda for today is we're going to going through the adoption of minutes. Hajira, those are the only apologies that I'm assuming is the chairperson, the minister, the DM will be arriving later.
We can just to note, chairperson, that Ms. Bodlani is online, but Ms. Bodlani will leave early. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with those apologies, let's review the agenda and then adopt the agenda. I recall chairperson indicated in the last meeting that we shouldn't be adopting the roundtable reports on podcasters. So that's an important item that we would like to achieve today because I know we had deferred that on the last time. Substantively today, we're receiving the presentation from DCDT and ICASA on the future overall agenda on the use of spectrum, market oversight, and a very important item, honorable members, that we have been eagerly awaiting to receive this presentation. Finally, it is before us. I've also been informed, maybe just on the agenda side, that the chairperson of ICASA is not here and he has deputed it to Dr. Charlie Lewis. But I'm sure that when we invite the department, they will lead us into that. Then we have the consideration and adoption of the report of roundtable of broadcasters, which we had deferred from the last time. There was some concerns raised regarding the timeframes. And then we'll get an update on the subcommittee of ICASA for the vacancies in the MTDA appointments. Colleagues, can I then seek your assistance to adopt this agenda that is before us? Honorable Megan, Choke-Ordenas.
Thank you very much, Acting Chairperson, and greeting to honorable members and any officials on the platform and fellow South Africans who are joining us on different platforms. I hereby move for the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Choke-Ordenas. Can I get a seconder for the adoption, please?
Good day, Chair. Matafa move.
Thank you. You second, Honorable Matafa. Gabongo, thank you so much, Honorable Matafa. Moves. Colleagues, with those reports agenda adopted, may I then check the minister and the DM is not here. Let me then call upon and hand over to DG Nonkubele, who I've seen on the call. DG, good afternoon and welcome to yourself and to your team and to the officials that are here. DG, I'll hand over to you to lead the team that will be presenting to us this afternoon.
Chairperson, the first item was the minutes. Would you prefer to adopt it?
Oh, my apologies. My apologies. My apologies for that. Sorry about that. Let's reflect the minutes, please. Hajira, and take us through to the minutes.
Afternoon, Chairperson and members. Members, the minutes Friday the 8th dealt with the adoption of our outstanding minutes, as well as a presentation by CETA on the automated tracking tool. And also we were considering the adoption of the roundtable, which stood over till today. This is the first page, members. Second page, also just attendance. Third page was the opening and welcome, and we adopted the adoption of minutes. Just to note that the minutes of the 17th of March stood over, and it was reviewed by the content advisors. It will be dealt with in the next meeting. Thank you, Chairperson. Then we had the presentation by CETA on the automated tracking tool, the observations, and I'll read the recommendations. The committee recommended that CETA should conduct a dedicated workshop with committee members, support staff, and parliamentary officials to refine user requirements and align the system with parliamentary business processes. That the system should be integrated with existing parliamentary systems, committee workflows, minutes agendas, reports, and other digital platforms where possible, that the committee resolutions and legacy data from previous parliamentary terms be incorporated into the system to ensure continuity and institutional memory, that strong role-based access controls should be implemented to ensure that only authorized users can access relevant information, that strict access controls must be enforced, including automatic removal of access when members or officials leave office, and that Parliament must retain full data sovereignty, ownership, and administrative authority over the system at all times. The tool should allow members to log oversight matters arising directly from communities and oversight visits, even where such matters do not originate from formal committee meetings. That notification and escalation systems be refined to avoid excessive emails and alert fatigue, and that consolidated daily notifications and manageable escalation structures be implemented, that the that the system should support specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound smart tracking principles by including deadlines, reminders, escalation mechanisms, and process monitoring against agreed timelines. That the system incorporates prioritization tools and metrics to distinguish urgent, high-impact, and routine matters requiring oversight attention. That CETA provide a detailed cost breakdown, including development costs to date, projected annual maintenance and licensing costs, and any external service provider involvement. That Parliament or government must retain ownership of the system and all associated intellectual property and data. That long-term maintenance and support arrangements must be clearly defined to avoid vendor login. That the system could eventually be expanded for use across other parliamentary portfolio committees and potentially become a broader parliamentary oversight platform, and suggestions were made to explore future integration of AI-supported analytics, prioritization functions, and links to budget implementation and government priorities, excessive notification during the testing, and emphasize that alert and escalation mechanisms must be refined to prevent notification fatigue, recommending consolidation alert rather than multiple individual emails. The next item was the consideration of the report on the roundtable on podcasters, where the content advisors made a presentation to the committee, and today we'll just adopt that report. And then there was an update on the international study tour, which today a further update will be given. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hajra. I think that recommendation was quite comprehensive. At least from my recollection, it sufficiently captures our sentiments of the committee with regards to how we felt about the tracking. Colleagues, are there any additions to the minutes, any amendments? You have that opportunity. If there are no further comments on it, may I please get your assistance so that we can adopt the minutes that has been tabled? Honorable members, we'd like you get your support to adopt the minutes, please.
Chairperson?
Yes, Honorable Choki Adonis.
Thank you very much. May I move for the adoption of the minutes?
Yes, you may move, and thank you, Honorable Choki Adonis, for assisting the committee. Colleagues, can I get a seconder for the minutes, please? We're waiting for a seconder for the minutes. Honorable Matafa, Honorable Singh, Honorable Felicia, Honorable Matafa. Okay, colleagues, we have a move for the minutes. Unfortunately, we cannot
My
get a
apologies,
seconder.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Matafa.
No, Chair, I think I was not part of that meeting, hence I'm not moving or seconding,
Okay.
but I'm noting the minutes.
No, thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, we don't have a seconder for the minutes. Unfortunately, we'll have to carry that forward. Let's then move on to the next item, and that is the substantive discussion for this afternoon. That is to receive the presentation from the department and ICASA on a very important item that is before us. Let me then hand over to DG of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies to welcome you, DG, and to the teams, and to lead us into the presentations, and the teams will be leading us. DG.
Thank you, Chair, and a very good afternoon, Honorable Chair, to the honorable members on the platform. Greetings also to the CASA Council. On the platform, Chair, I'm joined by Councillor Charlie Lewis and Councillor Andrew Matseke, along with the other councillors and the team from the regulator. Quick intro from our side, Chair. I think we thank and note also the comments by yourself on this very important topic of spectrum. It remains a very scarce national resource, and from time to time, Chair, we will have to align, obviously, the radio frequency spectrums along with new emerging, to accommodate new emerging technological changes that are constantly evolving within the sector. We also note, obviously, the criticalness of it in terms of the protection of critical services for the state. These are both public services as well as security services that we would need to render. So we also need to make sure that we have and allocate adequate spectrum for that. So every 4 years or so, we go into a cycle of the review of the National Radio Frequency Plan. We're currently busy with it now as well, and so we'll be also coming back to you later on during the course of this financial year to provide you the latest update and to seek Parliament's approval for the ratification. With regards to the presentation this afternoon, honorable members, you would, ICASA is going to take you through in terms of the importance of the use of these frequency spectrum and how then the regulator, I think, has been pivotal in ensuring that as they update, they take in consideration, as I said, these technological developments, as well as an evolution which goes very critical in terms of the planning, as well as identifying what would be then the future usages of that. So with that, Chair, I would like to hand over to the Councillor Charlie Lewis, who's leading the delegation from ICASA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, DG. Councillor Charlie Lewis, welcome to you and to your team. And we have noted your decision with regards to EIP. The chairperson of the committee has, in fact, I saw she welcomed your statement. So you and your team are most welcome to the portfolio committee meeting. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Honourable
Dr. Lewis,
Chair. Good
Honourable.
day to the Honourable members
we need to, can I request
of the
Dr.
committee
Lewis that you
and all
speak?
the colleagues on
Dr. Lewis,
the
can I
call.
request that you switch on your video so we
Can
can
you hear
see
me?
you first before you? Yes, I can hear you. But can I request that you switch on your video so we can see you, if that is possible? And if that's not possible, then you can switch off the video. We need to verify that you are Dr.
Just if
Charlie
you can
Lewis. We want
confirm
to
that
do.
you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can others hear me? Dr. Lewis, can
Okay.
you hear me?
Okay.
I hope so, Chair.
Chair, can I ask for a moment if Charlie, you could maybe consider switching devices? I was with him earlier on another meeting, and he did have network challenges. With your indulgence, Honourable Chair, please.
Now we have to have human oversight because these AI bugs, and a corner many hallucinations we have to pass over. So we have to see him for a moment.
In progress.
Chair, I hope you can hear me a bit
Yes,
better
I can
now.
hear you. You're sounding much better.
Thanks, Charlie. Will you be able to switch on the video?
Dr. Lewis, are you with us? Let's confirm that you have an audio that we can hear you.
Chair, let me try Dr. Lewis again. Councillor Lewis. There seems to be challenges. Chair, may I perhaps, because I do not want to waste time, maybe then invite the colleagues, okay. Councillor Matseke will take us through. We can somewhat see your face, half of it. You can just adjust the video a bit. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Thank you, DG. Thank you, honorable members.
Welcome.
I'll go through the agenda in the presentation in the absence of Councillor Lewis. We've structured it in such a way that it talks to the points as they were raised on the committee's agenda. If you can go to the next slide, Nico. Yeah, so the spectrum, as we know, it's a finite and scarce resource, and it's a key enabler of a wide range of communications services and the digital transformation of the economy. It is managed by the authority in terms of Section 30, one of the ECA, and the management of spectrum caters for competing demands, ranging from mobile telephony, broadcasting services, data, internet, Wi-Fi, private networks, scientific research, astronomy, etc. So when we plan for the future of spectrum, we do our best to balance between efficiency, competition, investment certainty, as well as public interest. Next slide, Nico. Okay, the interfaces for spectrum management in South Africa, on the legislative and regulatory side, it's primarily the ECA, as well as several policies that inform spectrum planning, such as the NDP, sorry, SA Connect policy, next generation spectrum policy, and SIP 15. Additionally, we also take into consideration the issues that are agreed by the region in CRASA, as well as the Africa Telecommunications Union. Next slide, Nico. The efficient use of spectrum, we try and ensure that each spectrum band we set aside for the highest value use, and then in spectrum assignment, we award specific spectrum to the highest value users. Next slide, Nico. Okay, in terms of regulations and policies that support the efficient and optimal use of spectrum, I think we've already covered this in the previous slide, but the ECA is, so I will concentrate on the right-hand side under details. So the ECA is the primary statute that governs the licensing, assignment, use, etc. of spectrum. And then we have policies that address spectrum policy in terms of allocation, efficient use, as well as the basis for market-based approaches, and then the regulations on TV white spaces have enabled the use of TV white space spectrum for broadband services. And then the National Radio Frequency Plan is the document that governs the entire spectrum from the kilohertz range, megahertz range, and gigahertz range of spectrum. And we have issued the NRFP that is based on the outcome of WRC 23. The minister recently came back to us to make some changes to the document before we send it back to her, which we will do early next week. And then we also look after broadcasting, both TV as well as digital sound broadcasting. And we are looking at the introduction of digital broadcasting services in the future. Next slide. Okay. Then the other issue worth noting is the Geneva 84 optimization project, where the Radio Communications Bureau of the ITU, as well as the R2, we launched the process for the optimization of the GE84 plan for African countries. And its main purpose was to achieve the efficient use of the band from 87.5 to 108 megahertz, popularly known as FM, for analog sound broadcasting, and to allocate new frequencies for FM broadcasting that will meet the increasing need for additional frequencies in African countries. Next slide, Nico. Then spectrum also requires cross-border frequency coordination within the CRASA region, and there are activities that are coordinated with those neighboring countries: Mozambique, Namibia, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Next slide, Nico. Okay, in terms of that project, the GE 84 projects, we have identified 26 assignments and new assignments, apologies, Chair, and then 22 assignments were identified for suppression, 19 for modification, and the amendment process ensures that all assignments are well coordinated. And then we also updated the VHF FM table for terrestrial broadcasting plan. Next slide, Nico. Okay, then in terms of the future agenda for the use of spectrum, I think the focus at the moment is on IMT spectrum, for obvious reasons, as that is the spectrum that is used for, amongst others, mobile network services. So in terms of the various radio access technologies groups, in the 440 megahertz for low user density settings, 440, 900, and 1340 megahertz, and for high user density settings, 540, 1420, and 1960 megahertz. Then the demand is driven by the need for high-speed internet, the increase in the uptake and usage of smartphones, as well as the phenomenal growth in mobile cellular subscription growth. We also have applications, machine-to-machine applications, which according to the latest sector report, we had approximately 14 million such devices in the country. Next slide, Nico. Okay. The authority is in the process of planning for the development of the long-term spectrum outlook, spanning 10 to 20 years. That document will contain an analysis of our regulatory, technical, and economic factors, including issues of relevance to regional and international best practice. The main aspects of that planning include setting spectrum management goals, providing a framework within which the spectrum will be made available, facilitate decision-making by creating the basis for consideration and evaluation of future course of action, as well as supporting and following major directions of the needs of current and future spectrum users. And the spectrum management process will also anticipate developments to ensure that we provide adequately for now and for the future. And to achieve this, there is a lot of analysis that is done in terms of capacity, coordination of procedures, frequency shifts, and supporting databases that are necessary to accommodate particularly various types of mobile systems. Next slide, Nico. Okay, in terms of the IMT spectrum, we indicate in this table in the different bands the spectrum, the size of spectrum in megahertz that have been that is available first, and what has been assigned, as well as what is still outstanding for assignment. And for some of those bands, such as the 1900 megahertz, the still feasibility studies that needs to be completed before we can then decide on the next course of action for the licensing of that spectrum. There is also spectrum that was IMT spectrum that was set aside for the WOAN, which is still unassigned. So this table just gives an overall picture, a high-level picture of the various bands that have spectrum, IMT spectrum that is still unassigned. Next slide, Nico. Okay. Then it's just an indication specifically on this slide for the upper 6 gig band that we will be identified for future allocations in the current financial year. In the financial year, I think, Chair, the presentation was prepared and meant to be done before the end of the financial year that ended on 31 March. Because we deferred it and are doing it now, some of the timelines may look awkward. But the development of the radio spectrum assignment plan was completed, but it cannot be implemented until we have the National Radio Frequency Plan approved by the Minister. And I did mention a few minutes ago that we will complete the process of addressing the Minister's comments early next week. And then once we are done with the RFSAP, the draft, we will issue it for public comment with the intention of completing the final assignment plan in the 27-28 financial year. And beyond that, we will then begin the process that leads to the licensing of that spectrum in the upper 6 gig band. Next slide, Nico. Okay. Then one of the issues that the authority has addressed in the past year is the whole issue of dynamic spectrum assignment, which really deals with the fact that the demand for broadband capacity is faster than the availability of new spectrum. And the DSA provides us with the ability to assign spectrum on a non-permanent basis to the users of spectrum in particular bands. And we implemented TV white spaces, as honorable members are aware, in the 470 to 694 megahertz band. And there were tests that were done for DSA in KwaZulu-Natal in a committee, part of the committee chaired by Councillor Fai. And those tests were successful, and we are now looking at moving into the next phase of that process. Next slide, Nico. Okay, then the other issue is that is still needs to be addressed is the need to empower the SMME network operators, particularly through leveraging TV white space and dynamic spectrum assignment, particularly for rural and underserved areas. And this process hopefully moves us closer in the direction of empowering those market players who do not have the means to bid for spectrum in the way that the large MNOs are able to do. And the benefits of such a process is that they do help us in the steps of bridging the digital divide, and utilizing SMME networks to advance various applications in rural and township communities, and to also improve or provide the ability to implement programs such as digital skills support in those communities. And what we've also seen is that some of these SMMEs, they do access networks in those communities using TV white space assigned on a dynamic basis, and then get their backhaul for accessing the internet through collaboration with the large MNOs. So that creates a foundation for that level of collaboration between those players. Okay, next slide. So in terms of the timeline for DSA, we will be implementing now phase 2 in the current financial year up to 2028. And then beyond 2029, we'll be looking at other bands, additional bands that can be classified under DSA. And then on the licensing of digital sound broadcasting, we are proceeding in line with the National Radio Frequency Plan as soon as it is approved by the minister. Then we can be able to move to the implementation phase then for digital sound broadcasting services. Next slide, Nico. Okay, I think this slide just summarizes what has happened since the previous NRFP. I think I've already covered that we are now at a stage where we just need to sort out the issues raised by the minister, and then we can have the NRFP 2026, and then align that with the long-term spectrum outlook. Next slide. Okay. The full spectrum outlook plan and roadmap is needed to support all these plans that we are referring to. And as indicated, we will be working on that plan shortly to develop that roadmap for the next 10 to 20 years. And we will go through the process then of publishing the plan for comments by stakeholders and industry players before we move to its adoption. Next one, Nico. Okay, this slide just talks to the subsectors of spectrum in terms of IMT, fixed wireless, satellite, as well as broadcasting, emergency services, spectrum sharing, as well as vertical industry needs. I think the items that are highlighted in green, I will not dwell on them because those are largely addressed. So for satellite, we still have to complete the regulatory framework and guidelines for HIPS versus IMT, and for broadcasting, the C-band and L-band reallocation decisions, with that item, particularly in relation to the 3.6 and 3 gigahertz band, is still a matter that the authority needs to address. And then following the reconfiguration of spectrum, particularly in the 700 megahertz band, we still need to address the issue of spectrum that needs to be allocated for public emergency services. And then we must also deal with the issue of spectrum for other verticals, including rail, ports, and mining. So those items still need attention on the part of the spectrum management team in the authority. Next slide, Nico. Okay, then the issue of universal access and service compliance. here we are going through, or we regularly go through the commitments that were made in terms of the spectrum that was licensed 4 years ago, and the licensing and compliance team regularly meets the companies that were allocated that spectrum for follow-up on the universal service obligations. And this is one area where the progress that has been made is not acceptable, but that's an issue that we are addressing with the licensees. Next slide, Nico. Okay. I think the comments that I made in the previous slide apply here. So there is regular reporting that is done, and monitoring and independent verifications, which must be followed by escalations and fines where appropriate. Next slide, Nico. Okay, in conclusion, the effective enforcement of infrastructure sharing, universal service obligations, and auction-related social commitments will ultimately determine whether spectrum allocation can translate into inclusive and sustainable growth. Next slide, Nico. Oh yeah, that was the last slide. I tried to optimize time, Chair. That concludes the ICASA presentation on spectrum, Chair. Back to you.
Through you, Honorable Chair, thank you very much. I do note that part of then the presentation was also asking that we perhaps also look at how is then the regulator going to support the municipal elections or the upcoming local government elections, and also the full utilization of the spectrum, I think, for the various services. So may I invite Councillor Sithole, and maybe if Councillor Lewis was able to fix his network, he could also come in afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tichi. Am I audible? Am I audible?
We can hear you, ma'am, but not that clearly. Thank you.
Yeah, please increase the volume.
Right. Is it clear now?
It is
It's
better.
so-
Good day, members. It's Honorable Matafa. Honorable Subrathi asked me just to facilitate on his behalf as he's driving from the mosque to a stable location. Once he is back, I will hand back to him. Councillor Sithole, maybe you can try again. Your attempt now was much better than the earlier one.
Perhaps maybe I should change. Okay, wait, I think- Is it clear now?
Maybe find a location where you're going to sit and be stable, and then try again. Let's hear. And also maybe try to switch your video off, as we have seen that it is you. Then maybe we can hear if it improves.
Is it-
Honorable Councillor Sitole, if you are speaking, just know that we cannot hear you. Honorable Sitole and maybe DG, if you can hear me, let's try and request Councillor Sitole to remove the headphones. Maybe they are distorting the connection between the speaker and her. Maybe it will assist. Colleagues, can you hear Councillor Sitole? Or can you hear me?
We can hear you, Honorable. Councillor Sitole is not the one speaking. Honorable is microphone is on. Chair.
Oh, yes, yeah. Honorable Ngubani, please just mute.
Thank you.
Thank you, DG. It was Honorable Sitole trying to make the presentation.
I'm beginning to think there's a slight agenda, Chair, because we had challenges with all the councillors' network, with the exception of, I don't know. But we are the regulator that is regulating the quality of service, so we will get it right, Chair.
Awesome.
Chair, may I invite Honorable Sitole to try once more to see if maybe her network is better now.
Councillor Sitole, you may proceed. Maybe in the meantime, DG, what we can do is to try to see if whether there is perhaps someone with a better connectivity area and the presentation that Councillor Sitole has. Maybe they can step in to assist.
Good afternoon, Honorable Matapa. Am I audible now?
Loud and clear.
Okay, my sincere apology. Let me switch off the other device. So I've got a problem with my laptop. The sound is not working properly, so I needed to join on my phone. I want to switch on the video so that you can see that it's not an AI, but it's me in person. I don't know whether am I visible.
Not at the moment, but we can see that something popped on the screen. It's just a black screen.
Okay. But I guess you saw me previously that I'm not an AI. It's Councillor
Yes, we
Sithole
did.
in person. And just without wasting any more time, we didn't prepare the presentation per se, Honorable Matafa, but we'll just talk on the update. But before I start on giving an update, let me just greet you as the acting chair of the PCC and all the members of the PCC, as well as the distinguished guests on the platform, councillors and DG. Chair, today we're just going to give you an update on the readiness of the authority in terms of the municipal elections. So, Chair, the ICASA is more than ready regarding the municipal elections. We, as a committee of the municipal election, have finalized and published the final regulations on municipal elections in preparation for the upcoming elections in November. So the regulation provides the framework for party election broadcast as well as the political advertisement. The regulation did not only consider the political parties, but it also included the independent candidates. So with the regulation, Chair, we are quite ready. And the next roadmap that we are going to undertake after the publication of these regulations, we are going to undertake and do the workshops for the licensees, which are mostly the broadcasters. This workshop, Chair, they are going to apprise the licensees on compliance of these regulations, of the municipal regulations. And this workshop will be done closer to the proclamation or just after the proclamation of the date by the president. As we know that the date has been released, but it has not yet been yet proclaimed by the president. So we are just waiting for the president to proclaim the date. Then we would undertake this workshop to workshop all the licenses on the PEBs, which is your party election broadcast, as well as your PAs, which is your political advertisement, both to all those we would workshop the licensees. Then the other part that we would do is ICASA will also meet with the SABC. As we all know that the SABC is a public broadcaster, then we would brief them and apprise them on the allocation of the PEBs as well as the political advertisement, and also sit with them, apprise them on compliance on the regulation, on the municipal regulations. The other part would be we would have to engage the IEC so that the IEC can give the ICASA the final list that has got all political parties and independent candidates who are contesting for the municipal elections so that we can allocate the PEBs and PAs accordingly. Lastly, the ICASA, which is the committee that has been assigned by the Council of ICASA, will continue as per invitation of the IEC, attend the PLC workshops of IEC, where they would be given an opportunity to do presentation on regulations. as per IEC request. So that is a roadmap that ICASA is going to undertake for now, Chairperson. I think I have covered everything under the regulation. I cede back the floor to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sithole. DG, any parting remarks before we open for members to engage?
No, Chair, I think on the side of the department, we stand ready to respond to any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, DG. Members, there's the presentation. Can we note members who wish to engage with the presentation? I will ask Hajira to assist as well with those that have indicated on the platform. Can we note hands, members? Hajira, please help me with the members who have raised their hands.
We'll do, Mr. Matafa. Mr. Subrati is back, and then Ms. Singh.
Okay, I would also want to come in. Can I propose that we start with Mrs. Singh? I will come in, and Honorable Subrathi, if he wants to come in. And once I'm done, Honorable Subrathi will take over. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Acting House Chairperson. Chairperson, I would like to welcome the presentation, but I do have several concerns and questions. Chair, firstly, the agenda referred to the local government election regulations, but we got a verbal presentation, but we didn't actually get a presentation that we could go through prior to the meeting and prepare properly. So I do suggest that we actually get a written presentation sent to the committee. Chair, secondly, the presentation correctly highlights the growing demand for spectrum driven by smartphones, 5G, IoT devices, broadband usage, and the digital economy. However, much of the presentation focuses on the frameworks, the roadmaps, and future plans with limited measurable timelines and accountability mechanisms. So when will the long-term spectrum outlook and spectrum roadmap actually be finalized? And what are the implementation milestones between now and 2028? And how will Parliament measure whether these plans are improving affordability, competition, and rural connectivity in practice? Thirdly, Chair, the presentation repeatedly refers to efficient and optimal use of spectrum, including the use it or lose it principles, dynamic spectrum access, and spectrum sharing. Can ICASA indicate how much assigned spectrum is currently underutilized or effectively lying dormant, particularly in underserved and rural areas? What enforcement mechanisms exist to prevent spectrum hoarding while communities remain without meaningful connectivity? And how does ICASA balance investment certainty for operators with broader public interest obligations? On the infrastructure sharing, the presentation acknowledges that high deployment costs, site access refusals, and weak enforcement remain barriers, especially in rural municipalities. Yet, the committee is not provided with clear enforcement outcomes. How many infrastructure sharing disputes has ICASA dealt with over the past 3 years? How long do these disputes typically take to resolve? And what reforms are being considered to create faster, more affordable, and non-discriminatory access for smaller operators and SMMEs? This is important because infrastructure sharing failures ultimately impact consumers through higher data prices, slower rural rollout, and reduced competition. Related to this, the presentation speaks positively about dynamic spectrum access and TV white spaces as opportunities for SMMEs and rural communities. While this is encouraging, can the department and ICASA explain how many SMMEs are realistically expected to benefit, what financial and technical support mechanisms will exist, and how sustainability and impact will be measured beyond pilot projects? Without clear implementation and support, there's a risk that these initiatives remain policy concepts rather than scalable solutions for rural schools, clinics, household, and small businesses. On universal service obligations and social obligations attached to the spectrum auction, can ICASA indicate which operators are fully compliant, which are not, and whether coverage claims are independently verified or largely self-reported? How many schools, clinics, and underserved communities have actually benefited from these obligations to date? And what penalties have been imposed where obligations have not been met? Spectrum is a public resource, and Parliament must be able to assess whether auction obligations are translating into meaningful public benefit. Chairperson, one of the key concerns throughout the presentation is that many important commitments appear dependent on future studies, frameworks, and consultations. Can ICASA and the department indicate what immediate interventions are being prioritized now to ensure that spectrum management directly contributes to lower data costs, expanded rural access, greater competition, support for SMMEs, and meaningful digital inclusion? Finally, Chair, as part of proper public accountability, ICASA should absolutely be able to tell Parliament what spectrum exists, what is assigned, to whom, for how long, under what obligations, and what remains available. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Singh. Members and Chair, I'm going to request that you bear with me as I continue with my video off so that I save the bandwidth that I have. Let me thank the presentation and the Temateke Councillor Stwell and the DG. It really assists in us doing our work. I just have a few questions of my own. And the first one speaks to economic transformation. So my question would be to find out how best can spectrum be used to ensure that Black-owned companies are participating in this particular economy. But for me, Chair, what is important is also to look at those unconventional sectors like maritime, navigation, radio, to see if whether are those sectors being opened up either by the use of the spectrum or by ICASA to Black-owned, female-owned, youth-owned entities. So that will be my first one. But coupled to that, Chair, is to establish what would we, as ICASA, say is the split between the spectrum that is used by the private sector and by government. And if there are other sectors that either through auction or through previous ownership are participating in the spectrum. The third one, it's on the future presentation that is very much welcome. Now the question would be, does ICASA have the necessary tools, skills, and supplementary activities that will ensure that this particular presentation of the future is managed properly, and the spectrum management as a whole? Are we able to deal with what we hear in the corridors about spectrum sharing? Honorable Singh spoke about conflicts that might emanate from infrastructure sharing and so forth. And also the satellite operations, are we fully capacitated as ICASA to be able to handle such? I think another question that is also almost similar to what Honorable Singh is the management of those that have already been allocated spectrum use. Are they using it in line with what the auction required? And if not, do we have tools or instruments to monitor and to take corrective measures where it is found that there are transgressions or non-compliance to the conditions of participation in the spectrum auction? And just the last one, Honorable Chair. So You will hear people in the streets or in the industry say that there is a network challenge, and in some instances, we also experience it. From the point of view of ICASA and linking it to the spectrum discussion, could it be that there's a shortage of spectrum for operators to extend their reach of underserviced areas, far-flung areas, but equally concentrated areas? So if we can just get clarity there, is the spectrum that is available sufficient? Is it enough that these actors are able to expand their reach so that the claimed issue of a network challenge is eradicated once and for all? There will be my last one as I hand over to Honorable Subrathi. Honorable Subrathi, the meeting is in your hands. Thank you very much, members and colleagues.
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable Matafa, for stepping in, and good afternoon again, colleagues. I was listening in. I think our connectivity was quite good, whilst other colleagues were having a difficult. And thank you so much to Honorable Singh for really asking all the critical questions that many honorable members would have asked. So thank you so much, Honorable Singh. Clearly, you had researched and prepared well, and also Honorable Matafa, you have you both of you have really covered us in this engagement. Maybe I want to then also welcome the comment and the request that we need a more substantive presentation, DG, on ICASA's role in the local government elections. What we received today was really a brief feedback, and I don't think we want to be caught offside that as a portfolio committee, we haven't interrogated properly the role of ICASA and ICASA being able to discharge its obligations under the LGE. So I want to emphasize that point. So we look forward to receiving that presentation as soon as possible. And there may be a gap that will come up in the program as we might speak a little later, and we might want to then consider using that space. I wanted to then also just talk about, please, honorable members, whenever you come before us, don't assume that everybody knows all the short terms that you use. Many of us, including myself, are first-time MPs here, and for the first time we're serving in this department. It's a constant learning process for us. You speak of the PCB and the PECs. What are those terms? And I think when you come before us again, please explain to us. Maybe a very simple question I want to ask of ICASA. You can either respond now or respond later, but maybe if you could respond now, it would be useful. Typically, when you go to a smaller party, has limited funds, and if you're going to a radio or a television station, you have the smaller parties and then you have the big parties. The parties are unable to purchase the same amount of airtime for politicking, etc. What are the checks and balances? Does ICASA play a role in this? Is this regulated by EC? Who decides that a particular party that has so much of money can go and literally buy off all the airtime or all the TV time in a particular station? That for me is a very critical question, because we want to ensure also that everybody has an opportunity to be able to access being able to advertise himself, but no one is also significantly disadvantaged. So what are the checks and balances as far as that is concerned? And does ICASA have an oversight over this, an element like this? I wanted to then talk about the issue surrounding spectrum. That was only my only question around the LGE. So we speak of spectrum is a scarce resource. I think I would like you to define for us, when you say it's a scarce resource and a limited resource, how limited is the spectrum of South Africa? How many years of spectrum do we have? When we say we need to mine spectrum, what do we mean by that? How then do we mine spectrum? How much of spectrum resource do we have? How long will it last us? And in terms of the country level distribution of spectrum, I think it would be useful for us to get a sense of where is, what is the level of spectrum distribution around the country? And maybe just another question around, I think colleagues have spoken around empowering small businesses, etc., on the new round of spectrum sale. What are we doing to facilitate and support smaller businesses, historically disadvantaged businesses, so they can own equity at the next spectrum sale when we decide to sell off that day? What is happening? Is there any effort being made to empower them, to train them, to give them kind of what are the requirements, what are the kind of numbers? And then for the next spectrum sale, have we decided in terms of how much of spectrum we're intending to sell? What is the price going to be? And I think colleagues have echoed my sentiments around the spectrum that we have already sold. I think it would be important for this committee to get a report about those MNOs, their obligations, what they had committed, what are they doing, and what has not been done as we head towards the next spectrum sale in the near future. So those will be my questions just to wrap up my presentation. To Gigi, let me hand back to you to lead the responses.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and thank you to the honorable members as well. Chair, whilst I will hit the floor to ICASA, I think two critical issues that are coming up. When I first joined or took the position of the acting DG, this was one of the issues that I needed to do in terms of simplifying what we mean by that the spectrum is a scarce, finite, as well as a national resource. To simplify it, and I think we can provide the much more detailed information on this, Chair, and we will stand ready, I think, as a department to come back and present this. So in terms of this, what we call spectrum bands, that's what we mean by it being limited, because you only have this much space in terms of movement and allocation. And that is why you would find in instances, and when we go to these international forums, that there is so much interest and competition as to how you allocate it. And obviously with new evolving technologies, there's going to be greater demand for what was already allocated, what was initial for the traditional or spectrum holders to where we're at now. And in that instance, you then now need to accommodate these new elements. And they modernize. In terms of this modernization, they disrupt basically what is currently there. We would be happy to come back, honorable members, to really give even if it's just an informal session, just to really break it down for you, these competing allocations. And as such, we have to make that decision to then say, are we then looking at the issues of universality, because you still have citizens, for example, who are, as you know, on analog broadcasting, analog radio, against where the trends are, where people have moved in terms of mobility in towns, per se, and you don't want to leave them behind. That's why our principles have always been about the universal and meaningful connectivity, meaning that you have to take into consideration all those. When you then modernize, honorable members, as you would know in simple terms, it means you have to also, from a citizen perspective or from the receiver perspective, you have to upgrade the technology, the equipment. And when you do that, it's an expense. The question would then be, even from a public perspective as well as from the private perspective, are there enough funds available for you to be able to do that migration? And that is why when we do when we go to these international forums and the time frame, we also indicate the period in which we will then do the particular migration to enable and to give then the opportunity for various sectors to be able to build this into their budgets for new allocations and new purchases. So that's the dynamic issues, and I know it's probably even more complex as I've explained it now. From a citizen perspective, I think, as you know, from the country, we all cry to say, yes, we want 4G and 5G, but as you would know, 4G and 5G devices are more expensive than your 2G and 3G devices. Who's going to cater for the, to offset those costs, and especially, as I said, for those citizens in South Africa and in other rural communities across developing countries who cannot afford this. So those are the issues that we always have to do the counterbalance with, working with our regulator as well. And that's probably the big difficulties with ICASA, because they would be charged in terms of ensuring the social and taking responsibility in terms of making sure that the social concerns, no one is left behind, against obviously the economic imperatives in terms of moving the country forward. And it is a difficult and a delicate balance act that we have to do. Honorable members, the second issue that you asked in terms of the more substantive presentation as we move to the local government elections, most certainly we're committing to provide that presentation and information beforehand. And I think, Chair, as you would call us or an opportunity is available, we can then be able to make that presentation and to provide greater details on it. Before I hand over to the ICASA team and the councillors, may I invite the DDG responsible for infrastructure to also perhaps weigh in on these and respond on some of the issues. I just want to guard that he is a technocrat and our engineer, as you would know it. And I'm just going to ask DDG Sono if you could just simplify it, please, for the honourable members. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, DG, for the opportunity, and afternoon, Chair, honourable members on the platform, and colleagues and councillors of ICASA. DG, I will only respond to the issue around limitation on the spectrum, and then the question by the Chair whether the spectrum can be mined, and whether, as a republic, we are going to at some point run out of spectrum. I think when you start thinking about running out of natural resources, it can be very scary. But Chair, I think the spectrum, like any other natural resources, of course, if it is not utilized efficiently, it runs out. Now, as the Republic, what we are doing, and I'm trying I'll try to be as simple as I can in terms of addressing the issue of limitations. Why do we keep on saying it's a scarce resource with limitations? The limitations comes because different services cannot share within a certain band. We have a situation where, and I'll use examples here so that we can have an understanding. For an example, mobile services and broadcasting services, they cannot share the spectrum. So that's basically one of the limitations that will basically come in terms of two different services being able to share. So when you look at the different services, there are services that can basically share. Now, those that are not able to share, we say there's issues of compatibility between those particular services. As a result, you'll have a limitation in terms of the spectrum use, and I've just used an example of mobile with and broadcasting to say they cannot share a spectrum band. Can it be mined? No, we cannot mine the spectrum. There's a range of around 0 kilohertz up to 3,000 gigahertz, which is allocated for the radio frequency spectrum within what we regard as the electromagnetic wave, which has different types of spectrum. So the radio spectrum that we deal with to offer TV, mobile services, our remotes, and all these things are within a 0 to 3,000 gigahertz, and hence the issue around limitation also coming in. Are we going to run out of spectrum? It's a yes and a no type of a question, Chair. But what we are doing as the Republic, of course, in terms of also our participation at ITU, we look at different ways where different services can share spectrum. And I think with technology advancing, this basically allows, there are certain services in the yesteryears which could not really share, but today people are putting in filters on the different technologies, and it assists in terms of any interference that can basically come in, and it reduces that. It allows a sharing of this particular spectrum. We also are in a situation where I think we all are trying to move away from the analog, which used to consume more usage in terms of spectrum and its use in terms of a channel. For an example, with an analog, you used to have around 8 megahertz of spectrum, giving you only one channel. Today, having moved to digital, a digital channel do not require too much spectrum. They do not require too much of spectrum, and with less usage of spectrum in terms of digital, you can get more channels. So this basically also give us the efficiency that we basically are required. So the decision, for an example, of moving away from analog spectrum for analog switch off of broadcasting, it also caters for that because it creates a efficiency in terms of utilization of spectrum, and hence we managed through that particular exercise where we had to create a spectrum for mobile services, which was originally not available. So as technology keeps us advancing, we also keep becoming innovative in ensuring that there's more spectrum for more services. Chair, and we also ensure that what we do in South Africa gets to be harmonized with the entire globe. Chair, thank you.
The team from ICASA.
Thank you, Chair. Just please advise if you can hear me now.
Yes, Dr. Lewis, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you. Yes, good to be with you. Apologies for the problems earlier. Does underline the need for South Africa to develop a proper disaster management plan, also in relation to spectrum, because I'm suffering some of the problems that have hit the Western Cape in the last week or so. But thank you for the opportunity to reply. First of all, we do need as the authority to apologize for not having a presentation ready on the local government, local elections regulations. I'm afraid there was a bit of a miscommunication. It was only as the meeting started that we became aware that we were supposed to speak on that. So we do apologize for that miscommunication. We will make ourselves available at a suitable opportunity when the honourable members require us to do so. If I could just pick up from where DDG Sono left off, this whole question of, and it's fundamental to understanding spectrum, and I'm more than happy to assist the department to come back and give the team in the portfolio committee a bit more of a detailed briefing on that. What I think we have to look at is spectrum operates, as Mr. Sono said, in different bands, and different bands are suitable for different usages. And generally speaking, you will find the lower bands, the bands, for example, that we cleared the broadcasters out of in the 700 and 800 megahertz bands. So the smaller the megahertz number, the lower the band. Generally, you find those bands can travel longer distances, have better propagation. Higher bands like the 2.6 and the 3.5 gigahertz bands tend to travel over shorter distances, but have better capacity for transmitting and carrying data. So there's propagation characteristics in spectrum you need to look at. In other words, how well does it travel? What capacity, what it can cover, what it can be used for, how much data it can carry. And so you then need to, and it's done through the International Telecommunication Union at a global scale, you need to determine which of those bands is going to be allocated to a particular usages. And that's where the ITU and the World Radio Conference, is one coming up late next year, and the ensuing radio regulations assist us, because they develop a global plan for how that spectrum will be used. As South Africa, on the basis of that, we developed the National Radio Frequency Plan, which Councillor Matseke alluded to. And on the basis of that, we developed radio frequency spectrum assignment plans, the dreaded RF SAPs. And all of that allocates the spectrum, determines which spectrum is going to be used for mobile communications, which for radio broadcasting, which for TV broadcasting, which for scientific purposes, which for satellites, etc., etc., etc. The phase that follows that is the phase in South Africa where we do the actual assignment of spectrum. And obviously the most obvious example that colleagues will remember is the 2020 spectrum auction, where the spectrum that had been allocated for mobile communications was assigned to 5 licensees in return for money that they put down for the auction. And that's one way of assigning spectrum. It's usually done in areas of the spectrum where the demand exceeds the supply. And so it's assumed that by using an auction, you can get the person or the company or the licensee who can make the best use of the spectrum be the one that actually acquires the spectrum. But it's not the only way of putting spectrum in the hands of companies to make use of it. And yes, as ICASA, we're very much aware of the needs and the challenges of ensuring, A, that the sector is fundamentally transformed in terms of its demographic representation, and ensuring that we get smaller companies to play in the sector, in the spaces where, with limited capital and being smaller operations, they're able to do so. So in some cases, spectrum can be done or can be assigned through an administrative process. There's certain bands where people come to ICASA and say, we would like spectrum in this band, and we give them a license in return for a standard license fee. There are other bands, and anyone who's connecting by means of Wi-Fi is using one of those bands, where the band is unlicensed, meaning that no license is required because it's really for short-term use. So Wi-Fi is a good example of that. And then there are the work that we are doing in dynamic spectrum assignment and opportunistic spectrum assignment, is looking at bands where that can be done on the fly, as it were, where spectrum is available and can be used. So I hope that clarifies that set of issues for the colleagues. It does touch on one of the points raised by the Honourable Singh, that yes, there is a large amount of spectrum that is underutilized and that is lying dormant. Partly because most of the subscribers and the users of the spectrum are concentrated in urban areas, Cape Town, Gauteng, Ekurhuleni, and other parts of the country. And so most of the spectrum is most heavily used in those areas. If you were to go to, let's say, a remote area like Kiani, for example, up in the far north, you're likely to find that large chunks of the spectrum that has been assigned to the mobile network operators is not actually being used because there are not many users and subscribers in that particular area. The intensity of use is not great. So there is an issue around that. One of the ways we are looking at dealing with that is obviously through dynamic spectrum assignment, and there's a project that was in our presentation on that. Also, we need to look at spectrum sharing models. We need, I think, as the authority, it's not officially an ICASA position, but we need to look at non-national assignments of spectrum. In other words, you assign spectrum in only those parts of the country where it is likely to be used. We have one example of that, and that's the spectrum assignments in a low band, the 450 megahertz band, to Transnet, which follows the area that they've been given the right to use that spectrum, follows the lines of the railway network in the country, leaving plenty of other areas in the country where that spectrum could be assigned to somebody else who could make use of it for a different purpose. So there's a lot of processes that go around there. I'm not going to be able to answer all of the questions. There was a question on the compliance in respect of the obligations given to the mobile licensees, the 5 of them who bought spectrum back in 2022. We actually had an engagement with the department this morning reporting back on that spectrum. The licensees have just recently submitted a report to us, giving us an indication of where they say they have rolled out as at the end of the financial year, end of March of this year. Of the licensees, of the 5 of them, 3 of them are fully compliant according to their submissions. 1 is very close to compliance, and another one of the smaller licensees, is some way off. And obviously, there are a number of challenges with that rollout and with that obligation. ICASA has a committee, I happen to chair that committee, which is actively engaged in looking at the issues, looking at the problem, and seeing how we can make sure that the licensees are fully compliant. It's very important, and we don't have the resources, we don't have the financial and personnel resources in ICASA to actually do a full and independent audit. In fact, it should really be done by a third-party audit of exactly what's going on in the police stations, the hospitals, the schools to which that spectrum or to which those obligations were given, so that we know exactly what's happening there. It's no good connecting a school if the school can't make use of the spectrum. So it's supply of the spectrum to the school is one thing. We need also to address the demand side to make sure. The point of this is to make a difference in the lives of people. So we do need to make sure that's properly and effectively, the compliance is properly monitored, and any non-compliance is dealt with. We have met with the licensees one-on-one a month or 2 back in respect of all of that, and we were actively working on monitoring the program, producing the reports, and we would be happy to make a submission on exactly where we are to the portfolio committee should they require. Colleagues, I think I've covered most of the main issues. There may be other issues that other colleagues from ICASA may want to address, and obviously we would take advantage of the opportunity to reply in writing within 7 days. So with that, Chair, if I may hand back to the DG. Thank you.
Chair, Councillor Mateke from ICASA here. Thank you, Councillor Lewis, for covering comprehensively a lot of the answers to the questions asked by honorable members. Chair, some of the questions that we are picking up from honorable members, we are of the view that rather than a presentation that we squeeze in an hour or so, that perhaps for the future, the committee consider setting adequate, maybe half a day type of workshop where we can try and simplify some of the technical aspects of spectrum in a lot more detail than we are able to cover now, because we also sort of customize the presentation to answer what was asked rather than give a presentation that serves to inform on a broader scale around spectrum. So through our secretariat and the chairperson of council, we're going to request formally that the committee consider setting such a time aside. In terms of and part of that discussion around the question of how much licensed spectrum is currently utilized, it's easier to answer that when we go per band in the bands that are of interest, of public interest. I mean, the spectrum starts in the kilohertz range. Kilo in science is thousands. It moves into mega, which is a million hertz, and into gigahertz. And in between, there are so many bands that some of them are of public interest, some may not, and including the question that was asked by, I think it was Honorable Matafa, yeah, regarding some of the bands that are not necessarily in the public eye, include maritime bands, aviation bands. And we could cover in detail some of those bands in such a workshop. One of the questions that were asked by Honorable Singh in relation to I think it was Honorable Singh, the SMMEs in benefiting from TV white space dynamic spectrum access. We will, as Councillor Lewis said, we will respond in writing, but the numbers are not that large. There are 13 SMME networks, 6 of them owned by women, 7 by youth, and they are spread between KZN, Limpopo, Free State, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga. And they have resulted in 183 Wi-Fi hotspots and connected 2,637 households. There was a question about the split between private and public sector users. I think that answer is not immediately available. It can be addressed in writing. There was a question that Honorable Matafa asked about how spectrum can best be used to benefit those who have been historically disadvantaged by our past. That is also something that we can perhaps request that we come back maybe with a more considered response to that question. There was a question also asked by Honorable Matafa that when we look at the network challenges that members of the public, users of our services ask, is there a shortage of spectrum to address such challenges? The answer is not a yes or no. Councillor Lewis has also partially addressed it. So there are certain areas, in urban areas, where due to population density and congestion, spectrum is sufficiently used, and the operators may even say they have shortages in certain areas. Whereas when you go into secondary towns and rural areas, spectrum is underutilized there. So that also requires a response that differentiates between the two types of environments. And then that is where in certain areas network performance is heavily affected by the security issues we have in the country in terms of vandalism and theft of infrastructure. And then there is also the discussion that we are currently having around satellite services. The licensing of low Earth orbit service providers will improve coverage, particularly in rural areas where terrestrial services are challenged in terms of reach. I would like, if there's anything that our other ICASA colleagues, we have the team from engineering and technology under Mr. Phil Molefe. If there's anything those colleagues would like to add, else, Chair, I would propose that, as Councillor Lewis said, that we do come back in writing on some of the questions that require a lot more detail, and if the committee can consider a workshop in the future. Back to you, Chair.
No, thank you so much, Councillor from ICASA. DG, are there any additions from you before I take it back from your side before we?
Chair, if I may come in on some one or two questions that you have raised.
Please come in.
And thank you very much, Chair. And Chair, my apology, I'm not going to switch off on my camera. Chair, I'm going to respond on the issue of the municipal elections. You asked, I think, one or two questions in terms of the equal allocation. So, Chair, in this instance, we are not going to use the equal allocation, but we are going to use the fairly allocation. And we have a table on the regulations that we would also send it to you, which we are going to use in terms of allocating the percentage of slots. So the slots will be allocated according to the number of candidates filled by the parties on both district and the local municipality list. Then the other question that was raised, and my sincere apology because I thought I did explain that the PAs, it's political advertisement, as well as the PEB, a party election broadcast. So on the issue of the political advertisement, Chair, the political parties, the ICASA does not get involved because of political advertisement, commercial arrangement between the political parties as well as the broadcast licensees. So any arrangement that has been done, it will be done between the licensees who wants to advertise the political advertisements. And in terms of the party elections broadcast, we understand that smaller parties do not have a lot of financial muscle. So what we do, we give the free airtime of 40 seconds that the political party may advertise not advertise, may send their political election broadcast to the licensee so that the licensee may broadcast that political election broadcast. Based on that, Chair, we are going to use the equitable allocation. We are not going to use the equal allocation. And lastly, Chair, it's not every, like the licenses, the broadcasters are not compelled to broadcast the party election broadcast. So once we are in the process of allocating the slots, but before we get into that stage, the licenses, after the proclamation, the licenses would come to ICASA and inform ICASA that they would like to broadcast the party election broadcast. And based on the list that we would have compiled in terms of the licenses that wants to broadcast, we would then do the fair allocation where we would decide now based on the 40 seconds on the free airtime, which is 40 seconds that we assign to say which parties and independent parties, political parties and independent parties that would be allocated the party election broadcast for broadcasting. I think I have answered everything, Chair, that you have asked. Thank you, Chair. Back to you.
Before I let you go, Councillor, just how often do they get this 40 seconds free broadcast? How often is it? Daily, weekly?
So that will be daily, Chair, according to the allocation that we would have given to each broadcaster. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, no, thank you so much. I think that helps. DG, is there anything from you before it returns to me?
No, Chair, there's nothing from the department. Suffice to say, Chair, that I think emanating from the questions as well as even the responses that have been made, Chair, it may be that we may have to come back with a much more substantive presentation with proper illustrations, Chair, in terms of the allocation of spectrum, these challenges that we've got, and maybe where we're at with the current spectrum band plan, but what are the future considerations that are probably going to come up both from the ITU as well as also national, Chair. And these interdependencies. So the minister, in terms of the ECA, is the one who has to go to the ITU to negotiate and obviously signs on in terms of these international treaties. Coming back, we have to work with the regulator in terms of the allocation. So that also explains the substantive traveling that the regulator and the part of the department does in as far as defending the national interest and those prerogatives that we have aligned to obviously our constitution, as well as the government's objectives of universal access. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. I think that's very important and very telling, because colleagues, we can't be expected to have oversight over a concept, spectrum, such an important thing, if we haven't got an intimate knowledge of it. I mean, one of the things that I'm kind of like taking away from here, and we know it, but we're also refreshing ourselves as public servants so that we can serve the people from an informed point of view. That's important. Is that because this is such a scarce skill, and it's all that we have as South Africa, therefore the ownership of it becomes very critical. You can't take that which is allocated to us and just distribute it to a company, a multinational comes in and says, I'm just going to buy it off and there's no local empowerment. So, I think when you start to understand the critical nature of it, because we know that I think was it 14 billion that was raised in the last time. We know which were the MNOs that purchased. We want to see something different happening, or at least some smaller empowerment taking place in the next sale of spectrum. So I'm going to therefore park this off on the basis that yes, we would like ICASA to come back to us. I know there will be a gap. From what I've been informed, there is a cancellation that's coming through. One of the joint portfolio committees we're supposed to have with education, I've been informed that it's been cancelled. The other entity has indicated, the portfolio committee has indicated they won't be able to join us. But I think when we come towards the end, I'm hoping we'll get that slot, because I would want to take two things there. One is the issue surrounding spectrum and its scarcity, and the fact that there's this international competition for it, and South Africa has to grab and take what it's given to it, and this, it gives a lot more sense. And the second thing is obviously a more substantive presentation around local government elections, so that we know that as a committee we've been informed, because the question is going to arise: why is this party getting more airtime than that party? From what I gathered from the last, it comes down to a commercial transaction. The party that got more money, ICASA doesn't have a direct say in terms of how much of that radio station or that TV station can give to a particular party. That becomes a commercial transaction. But I think we need to get clarity of that. So I'm going to park it off there and propose to the secretary to find us a slot. And preferably when you find us a slot, let's give ICASA the time that they wanted, an entire Tuesday morning. And please don't set these types of STEM subjects for Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon should really be for reviewing reports, adopting reports, those types of things. These very critical discussions. I think Tuesday is the better day for us to do that, not on a Friday afternoon, please, because many of the members are tired now, and we're imposing on them, and I don't want to do that. I had to start the meeting. It was just immediately after praying. Can you imagine? I'm sitting in a mosque there in Masjid al-Quds. I'm telling the Imam, can I have a place to start a meeting? He said, no problem. There's a place you can sit in. And guys are looking at me. But anyway, that's the beautiful South Africa we live in. And that's the portfolio of communications and digital technologies for you. We love our work so much. But colleagues, we're going to move on that item. And let's now go to the easiest part. I'm hoping colleagues will assist me. We had needed to adopt a minute that we didn't adopt. We didn't have a seconder. We had a mover for the meeting, for those minutes. That was Honorable Megan Chaka Odenis had moved for the adoption of the minutes. Let me check if there is a seconder. Maybe members have taken their lunch. Probably members were occupied at that point in time. We did have a mover for the minutes. I would like to check if we can get a seconder for the minutes that Hajira would have went through earlier. And then we want to deal with the issue surrounding the podcasters report and adoption of that. That was discussed substantively in the last meeting. Is there a seconder for the minutes that was tabled earlier?
Ms. Singh has a hand up, Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Thank you so much for assisting us in doing the work that we have been tasked to do. Colleagues, let's now ask, so as far as the, just flight the agenda for us, Hajira. So we've got the podcasters report. In the last meeting, we would have went through it. There were concerns surrounding, initially concerns were raised around the consideration of the report of the roundtable on podcasters. And the concerns were raised around the time frames. I think that is where it was. And then I think in the revised report, the timeframes were removed totally. So maybe let me then call the content advisors to lead this portion here. We had tasked you with allowed the MPs, the honorable members, an opportunity to input into the report that you had presented to us. So now if you can table the report for us, if there's any inputs, has it been amended? And if not, then we will need to go for adoption, because we have, from my recollection, received the presentation of the roundtable report. Which content advisor will assist us? Dr. Madupa, are you going to be assisting us with this? Or Mr. Maleka?
I can assist the chair. Maybe just to good afternoon, chair, and good afternoon to
Good
the
afternoon.
our members and other colleagues. If I may just assist the chair, the report they had incorporated, the chair, the timeframes actually what the members had requested, and subsequent to that, that's what the chair would have contributed earlier on in terms of her inputs. What members had requested that they be afforded. The report is quite technical, so they requested that they be given much more time to go through the report again, and if anything, if there's further inputs from their part, they would then do that. And earlier on, we had received number of inputs from the chairperson with a full support of the report to be adopted. So the comments of the chair, we had received them during the course of this meeting. We are going to incorporate those comments. It's about between 7 and 8 comments that she would have provided based on what she would have picked up on the report. But their report had, I must also reiterate, Chair, had included the specific timelines, but members would have requested that they be given more time, to go read through the report again, given that it was quite a very technical report in its very nature. So if anything, Chair, if members have further comments after reading through the report, I think then they could then provide those comments. What we'll then do, we are transcribing the meeting. If any comments from the members on this platform, we'll go incorporate those comments, and then the report should then be, completed and adopted, and hopefully that will still be today with the additional comments that would need to be incorporated. We're going to be incorporating the chair's comments, and she is in full support of the report being adopted in today's meeting. Thank you, Chair.
So no, thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Madupe. Dr. Madupe, do you perhaps, because my understanding is we all have had sufficient time to go through the report and make our input. Chair has made her input. Any other members would have had a chance to make the input. So maybe can I propose the following? We review the input of the chair, if that is okay with you. And then with the additions of the chair and the report that we already had sight of, I would like to propose that we adopt the report in this sitting here.
That's all in order with us, Chair, if members are so amenable. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. So if you can take us through the additions, because that is what the directive we intended to do. We intended to adopt the report today with the additions of members. So please, if you could take us through the additions that members would have made into that report. This would be the second last item, and we'd like to then adopt this report.
Mr.
I don't want to get into the habit.
Ms. Singh has a hand up. Apologies.
Yes.
Ms. Singh.
Sorry, Honorable Singh. Honorable Singh. Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Unless I got something wrong, yes, this was an extremely long report, and it took, and like the content advisor said, that it was very technical. So I think the request, as he indicated, was that members wanted more time. And he has indicated that the chair sent in input during the course of this meeting today. So my understanding was that if we had input, we'd also have an opportunity to provide that input, having had now sufficient time to study the report.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
So would you like to make your input now, Honorable Singh? Have you got input
Chair,
to
yes.
be made? That's the question. Okay.
Yes, Chair.
So,
would you like me to go ahead?
Please. Yes,
Thank
please.
you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. So, Chairperson, I also just want to say that, firstly, I would like to thank all the stakeholders to contribute to this really constructive process, and also to the content advisors, my sincere appreciation for this really comprehensive report. And I think that the report, I'm in agreement with the Chair that it gets many important principles right. I welcome the strong emphasis on the constitutional rights, the freedom of expression, co-regulation, platform accountability, protection of children, support of creators, and the clear recognition that podcasting and digital content creation represent a significant economic opportunity, particularly for young South Africans and emerging Black creators. So the report also correctly recognizes that the sector has flourished largely because barriers to entry remain low, and that overregulation could unintentionally damage a fast-growing and innovative industry before it fully matures. And I also support the report's broad-based approach that regulation should focus on clearly identifiable harms rather than podcasting as a format itself. However, Chairperson, while the broad direction is positive, I believe there are several areas where the committee should proceed carefully to avoid unintended consequences. And this is the serious concern I have, and perhaps just a reframing of some of the recommendations. So, Chair, while the report repeatedly and correctly rejects licensing of creators, some of the proposals could unintentionally evolve into indirect forms of licensing through mandatory registration systems, compliance burdens, accreditation requirements, or monetization conditions. The committee should therefore ensure that any future framework explicitly protects creators from prior approval systems or administrative barriers that would undermine accessibility and innovation, particularly for smaller and emerging creators. Secondly, there are proposals relating to a possible online safety authority and expanded oversight structures. While the intention is understandable, South Africa already has multiple institutions operating in this space, including ICASA, the FPB, the Information Regulator, the Press Council, and others. We should be cautious about creating overlapping mandates, regulatory duplication, and additional bureaucracy. Strengthening coordination and clarifying mandates between existing regulators may be far more effective than creating entirely new structures. Thirdly, the report correctly raises concerns around platform accountability and the need for global platforms to operate responsibly within South Africa. However, proposals around compulsory localization requirements and mandatory contributions must be carefully balanced to avoid discouraging investment, innovation, and participation in the South African digital economy. We should seek practical accountability mechanisms such as local legal representatives, transparent complaints processes, and cooperation obligations, rather than creating barriers that may ultimately reduce investment and competition. Chairperson, I also believe we should approach proposals around mandatory allocations of advertising spend and levies on digital platforms with caution. While the objective of supporting creators is important, overly prescriptive market interventions could create distortions, discourage advertisers, increase costs for consumers, and create dependence rather than sustainability. Incentive-based support, incubators, tax incentives, skills development, creator funds, and public-private partnerships may provide more sustainable alternatives. Another important point raised in the report is the distinction between large commercial creators and smaller hobby or emerging creators. A one-size-fits-all regulatory approach could disproportionately burden small creators who are simply trying to establish themselves. Any future framework should therefore be proportionate and risk-based, with obligations scaled appropriately according to reach, revenue, and systemic impact. Chairperson, one of the strongest themes emerging from the discussions is that South Africa would view the sector not merely as a regulatory challenge, but as a strategic growth opportunity. Digital content creation, podcasting, and creator economies are becoming major global industries. South Africa has the potential to become a leading African hub for digital content, multilingual storytelling, cultural exports, and digital entrepreneurship. That requires an enabling environment that encourages innovation, investment, and participation. I also believe the committee should exercise caution regarding misinformation regulation. While harmful content and incitement must absolutely be addressed within constitutional limits, vague or overly broad definitions could create risks to legitimate democratic debate and freedom of expression. Any interventions in this area must remain constitutionally compliant, narrowly tailored, and focused on clearly unlawful harms. Finally, Chairperson, I believe the central principle emerging from this process should be that regulation must remain light touch, proportionate, technology neutral, and future focused. The objective should not be to control digital expression, but to create an environment where creators, platforms, investors, and citizens can participate safely, fairly, and productively in a growing digital economy. Chair, as you can see, I used my additional time profitably to go over the report. Thank you.
ICASA, you did a very substantive job. We should have put you onto item on the agenda, Honorable Singh, to give us a presentation feedback. No, thank you so much, Honorable Singh. I think, colleagues, may I suggest, are there any other additions to the report or comments? I think Honorable Singh has given reflections more than specific additions. I think Honorable Chair, from what I understood from you, Dr. Muduba, she would have given specific additions to the report, add in, subtract, etc. What Honorable Singh is giving, firstly, her perspective of where we should be cautious of. My only concern in all of whatever we've been doing in the whole podcasting thing is there has to be the balance. We can't have a scenario also where you get a foreign podcaster utilizes our digital space, comes in and says you've got a white genocide taking place here, bashes South Africans, destroys our economy, uses our system in a podcasting mechanism and destroys us because we have been caught flat-footed. I have a fundamental problem with that, with misinformation and disinformation. Through ICASA regulation, we found that those who fall within ICASA, they have a certain level of, they have to toe the line. I'm simplifying it. But in the digital space, it can be used to really harm and cause harm. Break down society, remove social cohesion, etc. Those are my only concerns. I think I would have deposited, I think it's minuted as well, around misinformation and disinformation, where podcasting is used as an instrument by mischief makers with bad intention to create mischief. That would be my single largest concern around what we agree upon. So, Dr. Medupa, may I therefore propose the following? I really wanted to have adopted this report today because Chairperson would have wanted that to happen. But I think with the input that what Honorable Singh has given, what you have got from Chairperson and my contribution, again, I'm repeating the issue surrounding misinformation and disinformation. How then do we factor this into our report? That, the report should be, there's no need to get down into deep regulation. But if we find that the mechanism is being used and being abused, it means then one has to step in and regulate. So I would then propose Dr. Mudupa, we allow you one more bite at deepening the report with the input of Honorable Singh and myself, and maybe present it before the next portfolio committee with those additions, take into account our input. Yes, okay, no, thank you so much, Honorable Singh. Some recommendations, of course, yes. No, they have been reflections and recommendations as well. I think a lot of it was reflections, but of course, it was recommendations include. So Dr. Mudupa, if you can then incorporate that, and then maybe we can then have that adopted in our next sitting. Sorry, I'm not looking at hands. Dr. Mudupa, your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you so very much again to Honorable Singh. That was quite expansive in terms of her reflection on the report itself. And indeed, that's the content of the report. And would really appreciate it, Chair, if maybe Honorable Singh, as much as we are recording the session or we transcribing the session, if she is so amenable to share her reflection, if she's so amenable, so that we can then make sure that where we need to make amends on the report, would make sure that we accordingly make changes, of the report based on her reflections. Chair, I thought I should, if you so allow, Chair, I could also quickly, it's only a few lines that the Chair would have, deposited. If you so allow, I could quickly read the Chair's comments, into the records. I've got it on the screen. I could quickly share that one pager. It's not too much. For record purposes, just to make sure that we capture everything. Chair.
Yes, please go for it, Dr. Mudupe. You have permission.
I'm not too sure if my screen is showing. Share a few
Yes,
lines
we
from
can
the
see it. We can
chairperson.
see it.
One of the things that you would have commented on, it's a line on the report, and that is highlighted in red. The medium is not the problem, and that's coming from the report. The focus should be on specific harms, not on the technology or format through which they are distributed. What the chair would have commented on based on that line is that this sentence does not represent the discussion, which is further discredited in the rest of the document, and I think it must be removed. The document creates a lot of confusion about this matter. So the chair would have recommend or suggested that we remove that line because it does not necessarily, reflect, the discussions on the day. So that line would be removed. The second comment from the chair was on at the bottom of page 21. She differs with the notion that DCDT is solely responsible for bringing down data cost. So we're going to look at that page as well and make amends based on the chair's comments. The third comment was the word, I think that was a typo, was that particular word that we need to look into, and if anything, we just need to correct that word on page 2. And she further says that I do not think, she basically was expanding on that particular word. So we'd look at that word on page 22 and make sure that get corrected accordingly. The third comment from the chair: why are we singling out podcast and chill and open chat? This is very unfortunate, and I believe that it should be removed. That's the fourth comment. The fifth comment would be on page 24, Chair, where we propose a community levy. How does this align with the existing broadcasting levy? So we just need to clarify that part of the report as well. In the closing remarks, we cannot commit ourselves to endless meeting. That's the sixth comment from the chair. And the last comment, or the last remarks from the chair, that with those comments noted and attended to, I support the report and thank you for your diligent work on on putting together, the very report. So this were the comments from the chairperson and all this comment, Chair, will definitely be incorporated with the changes made on the report as per what the chair would have deposited. Thank you so much, Chair.
No, thank you, Dr. Mudupe. And let's also then, Honorable Singh, if you can also share your input, you're welcome to deposit into our WhatsApp group or send it directly to the resources. I think if you share it in the group, it will assist us all to also reflect on your input as well. But thank you so much, colleagues. That will move off the item of the podcaster report, and hopefully we'll table that in the next meeting. The last item is the subcommittee and the ICASA subcommittee and a feedback. I think that will be done by Tembenkosi, the second last item, and I think the last one is their last item. The study tour. I think it's a study tour feedback. But Tembenkosi, the platform is yours.
Good afternoon, Chair, and good afternoon to members. Chair, I don't have a great connection, so I would request to switch off the video.
That's fine.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Thank you, Chair. Just to start, Chair, on the issue of the ICASA Council vacancies, members would remember that we tabled that matter to the committee where there were 4 vacancies that will arise as a result of the expiry of the term of 4 council members. We advertised, and the advertisement closed on the 29th of March this year. And Chairperson, I can confirm to this committee that we have concluded the administrative processes that follow the closure of the advertisement. We do have a list of nominees as well as the summaries of the candidates, summaries of the CVs of the candidates. Chair, the committee had taken a decision to establish a 7-member subcommittee. I can report that I've received the names from all the parties represented in the committee, with ANC providing 3 names, that of the chairperson of the committee, Ms. Sangweni Diko, Mr. Subrati, Mr. Mkhaga, and from the EFF, Ms. Lisha, and then from the DA, Ms. Bodlani. From the smaller parties, which is PA and IFP, it will be Mr. Ngobese. of the IFP, and from the MK party we have President Chabeleng. So we have those 7 members, chairperson, that constitute the subcommittee that will look into the appointment of the ICASA. Chairperson, we've looked at the committee program as well as the National Assembly program. We have identified the date of Thursday, the 21st, next week, early morning, 8:30 to 9:30. Reason for that, Chair, because at 10 o'clock there's caucus until 12:30. And then after the caucus, there's a plenary that is happening. So the only time that we could find is the morning. That our chair is basically just to take members through what we have received and also do a distribution of documents, as well as adopting the draft program that we intend tabling in the meeting on that day. So, Chairperson, with the permission of the committee, but obviously we will consult with the chairperson of the subcommittee to set up that meeting for next week on Thursday to start with the process. That is the report that we have on the ICASA Council Chair. I'm not sure if the colleagues want to add, but I have been like at the forefront of dealing with this matter. So that is what I can report on the ICASA Council Chair. I'm not sure if you want me to proceed with the MDDA. And then after with the study tour, and then we can maybe have a discussion after that. I'll be guided by you, Chair.
I think do the MDDA and we'll deal with the ICASA and MDDA if there's any comments from the members. Deal with the MDDA response, please. Feedback.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chair, there's 2 matters in relation to the MDDA. The first one is the matter relating to the removal of a board member, as members would have been also made aware of this during the oversight visit. Chairperson, as much as we have been copied on the communication from the minister and the presidency to the speaker tabling the matter, it has not been formally referred to the committee. But we are waiting for that referral through the Speaker's office, Chairperson, and I was in touch with them, and they had indicated that it was to be tabled soon. It was just going internal processes in that office, Chair, and thereafter would make its way to the ATC. Chairperson, we have also, because we were provided with the matter and with the report and the letter of the presidency, we looked into it as a team, and we thought that we will advise, it would be better for us to advise the committee when the matter has been referred to the committee, but we have already prepared how we're going to be advising the committee on that matter, but we strongly felt that it's better that we await the formal referral, and then once it's been referred formally, and then we can table it to the committee together with the advice that we have provided. That is on the first matter in relation to the MDDA, Chair. And on the second one, Chair, it relates to 2 vacancies in the board. One would have arose as a result of the passing of Dr. Skepas last year in December. Members would remember, members who sat in the subcommittee would know that they interviewed Dr. Skepas and recommended, and that one matter was brought before the House. And so as a result of her passing, there's that vacancy in the MDDA board, Chair, and there's also an imminent one, Chair, that will arise at the end of June, which is next month, due to the expiry of the term of office of Professor Hlengani Mathebula, who's currently the board of the chairperson of the board. So, Chair, in the minister's letter, there's an indication there, especially in relation to the vacancy of Dr. Skepas. The minister makes a proposal, or if I can put it that way, but she indicates there that the committee must revisit the previous pool of candidates from which Dr. Skepas would have been appointed on. And Chairperson, we looked into that as the support staff, and previously we had consulted on a similar matter, Chairperson, where we had a member of the board that resigned. I think it was just 6 months into the position, and the advice that we received back then from the human resources, because it's a human resource matter, was that ordinarily, although there's no set rules, but they do sometimes visit a previous pool if it is not older than 6 months, but they would advise against any such if the appointment would have been done or the committee would have concluded this process is more than 6 months, which is in this instance, Chairperson, the committee adopted its report in July 2025 for tabling to the Assembly. Yes, the appointment was made in November, but Chairperson, the committee concluded its process and reported to the House in July 2025. So as the Secretariat, we thought that it would be best to advise the committee that in order to allow for public participation processes, to rather advertise the 2 vacancies on the board, other than perhaps revisiting a pool that would be, if we look at it now, about 10 months old. That is the 2 reports on the MDDA board matters, Chairperson. And with the latter one, Chairperson, if the committee so agrees to the advice of the committee, we will kickstart the process of advertising for those 2 vacancies as early as Monday, Chairperson. And Chairperson, on the last matter which relates to the international study tour, you remember the last time we reported that we were still awaiting a response from the Chinese embassy with the dates that would have been proposed to be mid-June. However, the committee was very clear that it would not be feasible for it to travel after the end of this month, as there would have been a moratorium on put by some other political parties in terms of members traveling. And the committee then mandated us to go and look for an alternative and also look at the possibility of that happening before the end of this month. Chairperson, following that engagement, on that same day, or weekend rather, of the 8th, there was a concept note that was produced by the capable content advisory team. And on Monday, Chairperson, we started from our side as well to members would of course remember that they started even getting some requests for their passport numbers, as well as the committee assistant also started the process of sourcing quotations. And on that same day, we also wrote to DECO informing them of that imminent visit. And Chairperson, whilst we were at that, we received a response from DECO. First of all, Chairperson, they were indicating that the request for the international visit was of a very short notice, considering that there were 2 weeks to prepare for the international study tour, and also raising a very important matter, Chair, of the general elections. Sorry, Chair, maybe I did not indicate on the concept note the country that was identified was the Federative Republic of Brazil. They've indicated, Chairperson, that they are also, after the message from Tekoche, we also received a message from the ambassador in Sao Paulo. In actual fact, we were copied on the email from the ambassador in Sao Paulo to the ambassador in Latin America, just indicating, Chair, that it would not be possible for the embassy to accept any invitations, considering that the Brazilian government is busy preparing for the national general elections that will be hosted this year. and also Chairperson advising that maybe we should look at another time, but it would not be possible for a committee to visit Brazil at the end of this month, Chairperson. So that is the report on the study tour, the MDDA, 2 matters, and also the ICASA Council. And of course, Chairperson, as I've indicated, I work in a team. So I invite colleagues if they would want to make inputs on the 4 matters that I would have raised with the committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, thank you. Thank you, Thembinkosi. Colleagues, there we have it. It's quite a mouthful that we've got to reflect on. The one was the ICASA subcommittee. Thembinkosi has given us the feedback. He's proposed, Thembinkosi, I'm assuming that's a subcommittee meeting next week, Thursday at 8:30 to 9:30. Wherein you would then go through the whole candidates that you've received, etc. And we've got we've done this before with ICASA, so that's the first thing. Let me then open the floor to, and then the second one was the issue surrounding the MDDA. 2 issues around that. The one was the issue surrounding awaiting a letter for the removal of 1 councillor. And the second is the 2 vacancies that arose as a result of the death of Dr. Skippers and the professor as term comes to an end. And the third one you've heard just regarding the response of the DIRCO, the ambassador to Brazil. Let me then open the floor for comments and reflections before we find a way forward. So there's 3 items. I think the first one is pretty straightforward. I think in that, let's agree 8:30 is fine next week, Thembinkosi. Maybe you need to just, if honorable members are happy with that time, you've expressed to us that it's sitting in the morning at 10 o'clock. I'm assuming it's a mini plenary. Hence, you're squeezing that in before that day. I don't think that would be a problem if honorable members are okay with that. I'm particularly concerned over the second item, especially maybe the item around the 1 councillor who would be withdrawn. Whether we should advertise for 2, how are we preempting the 3rd vacancy that may arise? Because aren't we going to go through the whole process again? That's the only concern I would have had. If there is a withdrawal of 1 councillor and there's 2 vacancies already, that would mean when this happened, there would be 3 vacancies. And then we'll have to go through a process to appoint 1 more, or based on what you're saying, the track record of 6 months, if we would have done that process, then you would have had the 3rd candidate possibly waiting for the next. So let's open it up. I don't see any hands coming up. Honorable Singh? The floor is yours,
Thank you,
Honorable
Chair.
Singh.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, regarding the first matter of the ICASA subcommittee, I would assume that Thursday would be caucus, and he's trying to fit it in before caucus meetings. But perhaps if he could just drop it on the group, because I think Honorable Budlani, who's on that, had indicated that she had to leave early today, so that they have sufficient notice of the meeting and can plan accordingly or respond. Chair, regarding the MDDA issue, I must admit that I have serious concerns regarding the length of time that it's taking for this matter to be dealt with. When we went on that oversight visit, the board chairperson told us that they had written to the minister in August last year. And for there to be no movement on it as of yet, it is a serious concern. Chair, however, I would refrain from talking about this being a vacancy because there was a request made. That matter has to be dealt with on its merits, and the process needs to be to unfold. And with the vacancies, if we currently have 2, I think that the term of the chairperson was also coming to an end in June. So, we're going to have a lot of instability in that board if it is not dealt with timeously. So those are the concerns I would like to raise on that. Chair, regarding the study tour, my own personal opinion is trying to get this thing done by the end of May, sounds to me like more we're trying to do this as a tick box exercise. We're not going to have time to, you're going to go in a couple of weeks. If this did materialize, what are we actually doing there? What do we want to achieve? I think there should be some serious deliberations that should happen for what we need to achieve out of a study tour before just going somewhere and then randomly choosing a country that that things can be facilitated quite quickly. That's not the intention of it. I think we need to understand what we want to achieve on the study tour and then look at it. Chair, the other thing is that I think there is some committees that are looking at the week from that 15th, 19th of June or something. I certainly wouldn't support that. We've got the first registration weekend happening on that weekend. So, Chair, my own opinion would be is that if this can't be done between perhaps that week of the 28th of June or whichever that Sunday is after the registration weekend, I don't know whether it'll be possible for members to do that. We're probably going to have to leave it for after the elections because many members would not be able to travel. Chair, I strongly caution against doing the study tour just as a tick box exercise. We need to understand what is important for our department, what we want to achieve, and where would then be the best place for us to have a learning experience from. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable Shabale.
Hello? Chair, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
I can hear you,
I just wanted to find out on two matters. One is this board vacancy issue in terms of what is the final clarity and way forward. Secondary to it is the issue of the study tour. It seems like it's not really a priority. Last week we spoke about it, myself and Honorable Ngobese. And I think Chair promised that there will be almost hands-on approach to it, and it looks like nothing is happening. The other matter is this conflicting. This week, we had plenaries until today. There's another plenary running. I'm concerned in the way we're structuring these meetings, where it conflicts with even our sitting plenaries. You are aware if we miss plenary, we actually get marked absent from Parliament. And it actually acts against our parliamentary related attendance list in terms of attendance register, and it actually gets reported as having been unable to attend, which is actually wrong. We're not absconding. Instead, we're actually assigned to a committee. So they don't reflect this issue. So I want this about looked into so that we don't have a plenary that conflicts with attendance of our Friday meetings. Coming back to the issue of the study tour, I think let's suggest different venues. If we can't do this thing, there's various areas. One, we can go and do our study tour visit to other countries. We don't have only one country in respect to a study tour. We've got Australia and New Zealand. There is the Far East. There is Asia. There is Russia. There is Canada. There is South America. There is Africa. There's variety in terms of where we could go in terms of study tours. But I don't see the level of focus from our team to finalize this particular matter. And I'm quite worried because one, we get robbed of certain values. Study tour, part of it in terms of the study tour value of it, as well as the element of the financial contribution that the study tour give to members. Not only that, the ability for us to network globally with relevant other stakeholders in the global space, etc. So, you won't make a call on this one, but I think it needs to really be sharply brought to attention that we really need to finalize. There's Venezuela, there is Nicaragua, there is Brazil, there is South America, Mexico, there is Canada, there is the US, which I don't really support. But, we've got the America, we've got the, Europe side of it. In many European countries, there's available opportunities to go and do a study tour in. You've got Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, you've got Australasian, countries, you've got India, you've got all of those. So we can't be told that one country has elections and then we can't go to it. And as a result, we must give up. We haven't done Australia, we haven't done New Zealand, we haven't done. So I'm just saying, I think it's time we really met, prioritize this to be an emergency and get this application finalized and sorted once and for all. That's my contribution. The other matter, Chair, if we need to discuss, I just wanted to bring to attention on this minute. There's a communications council board members, about half of them have actually resigned from the communications council itself. And then this matter has not been brought to our full attention, and it's actually affecting the communications council's way of operating. There are issues in respect to the way the board has been operating internally. It's not an external issue. And I think we need to look at that as well. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Chabeling. I'm just trying to check if there's any other hands here. Okay, so maybe Honorable Chabeling, let me just respond to your last query. In fact, when this last night, I would have sent a message to Secretariat last night or this morning about this afternoon's meeting. I said that, is this meeting going to go ahead because it conflicts with the mini plenary that started at 2 p.m. And Hajira would have given me feedback. In fact, she sent me the request that was sent through to the Office of the Chair of Chairs, requesting permission to have this meeting because this program was adopted before the parliamentary program was adopted, where the mini plenaries were set out for this afternoon. So it followed a process as far as getting permission. And two, in the defense of Secretariat, it was not purposely double booked. The program came subsequently, the parliament program came subsequently. But your point is well noted. I think to double park and ignore mini plenaries, even if you're not actively taking part, I think as parliamentarians, it's important for us to be enriched by the conversations that take place in those other sessions. In fact, I asked the question today, this afternoon, was science and technology, which is a department that's close to us. We're working closely around the satellite project. I would have preferred to have sat and listened to what their vision is because we cut across. But that process was attended, but I think Secretariat would have heeded the point that you make, that we don't want to deliberately cut across and double park in meetings. I think I support your sentiments there. I wanted to then just maybe respond to issues surrounding the concept of going to study tour. Last week, I'm not too sure, Honorable Singh, if you were in the call, honorable members would have deliberated very strongly, where chairperson exceeded that the matter should have been expedited, and that is why there was this call to action that kicked in on Monday. So it wasn't driven behind wanting to just go for the sake of it. I think it's driven around the idea, as Honorable Ngobese would have mentioned, the importance of international benchmarking. So I think, Secretariat, the sense I'm getting in and I support is the following, that, for saying we're going to Brazil, we should be informed why Brazil. That will answer the question of Honorable Singh. But I think Honorable Shabangi makes the case there are many other countries that we should be going for. Already, I think Honorable Deco made the point last week that last year's budget, we returned it, and now we're going to get caught again. So I think the feedback I'm getting in the sense and the directive to you is find a country that we can go that talks to what we need to do in terms of the areas where we need to benchmark. Honorable Cheveling makes a case of various other countries, Malaysia, Europe, etc. So that is a kind of sense I'm giving back to you, to Secretariat, to look at that and content advisors and maybe look at alternative options. That was a study tour. I think we dealt with the issue surrounding meetings. Okay, so Honorable Singh, thank you so much. I think the point is around so I think we've dealt with the issue of the ICASA one. That's next week, 8:30. Colleagues, you will deposit that into the group so that Honorable Bodlani is aware. The second thing is around the MDDA, those 2 vacancies. I'm just thinking aloud, can we not plan it such that when we're doing the interviews for these 4 councillors, if Johannesburg, I'm assuming that's where we went the last time, we also do the MDDA interviews on the next day or in the afternoon, so that our travel is one travel and we don't incur the flight cost 2 times more than necessary flight cost. So I think we should proceed with that as soon as you're ready to proceed, Tembinkosi, regarding those two vacancies. The only point addition I wanted to make was it would be nice to piggyback off the process we're running now for ICASA, and when we're in Johannesburg, we can have back-to-back interviews for both the entities. That'll just make it a lot more easier for members to have to travel and not to travel unnecessarily. I think we've dealt with the issue of the ICASA councillors. We've dealt with the issue of the MDDAs. The other one, we'll await the letter and take the guidance from Secretariat about that one. Letter hasn't been, we haven't received it anything formally. So we'll just work on the basis of the two vacancies that we are aware of. And the last one was, I think, the ICT Sector Council that Honorable Chabaleng has raised. Maybe we should bring, they had appeared before us. We may recall the ICT Sector Council indicated to us that all the EEIP commitments that all the big businesses would have made, many of them don't want to be held accountable. They're not willing to come, and they're very apprehensive of when asked, what are you doing? They don't want to be accountable. I think this is what Honorable Chabaleng has indicated, that there seems to be a breakdown in the council itself. I think we should call them to come to us, or may please call the department to report to us, or call the council. I would leave that with content advisors, because the council is an important guardrail in terms of the entire monitoring. Our ICT Sector Core Council is a very important guardrail in the ecosystem, and if it's disintegrating, we need to understand why is it disintegrating, and more importantly, how then do we strengthen the council to make sure that mechanism is reinforced. So I support the idea of bringing that before us. So maybe the content advisors can look into it. How then can we bring them before us? Because I think it is a developing story as I speak to you right now. I'm also aware that there has been some developments over there. Honorable, Tembinkosi, you want to have a secretariat? I think we've said what we needed to say.
One last question.
You want to respond?
To close everything?
Yes, Honorable Chair. Yes, Chair.
I just wanted to know, I noticed that for the committee of ICASA, we've got ANC with 3 members on the committee, and we all have 1-1-1. Was there any rationale, or was there no way we could have a 2-1, which is, ANC 2 since being the majority leader, and then 1 to DA as the minority in the alliance of the GNU, and then after that have 1-1, or even given MK a 2-seat member on the committee for ICASA, because we are the official opposition. So I'm quite a bit, perturbed in the sense that we only have 1 seat when we are the official opposition, and the main GNU is sitting with 3 + 4 plus the other GNU-based members on the committee. And I think it's a bit, slanted, unfortunately, in a disadvantageous way. We know we are not disagreeing that there should be members, but we're just saying it will only be fair if we can have a bit reflective representation. We are the official opposition, so we deserve 2 seats at minimum. And that's the contribution I wanted to make, respectfully, so thank you.
Okay, let's get Secretary to respond to that, because that formula we would have used in 2025 when we did the ICASA Council. Was it 2024 we did that ICASA Council? Tembinkosi, you want to try and respond to whatever we've had to say thus far, please?
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, honorable members, for your questions and your comments on the 4 matters before the committee. Chair, ICASA, thank you. I think we are clear on the ICASA Council vacancies, that we can proceed with setting up for next week. Chair, on the MDDA board vacancies, we propose, Chair, that we start with the process of advertising for the 2 vacancies instead of visiting the previous pool for 1 vacancy, because that request is specific to 1 vacancy, the one that would have fallen under the process where Dr. Skepas was appointed. So, Chairperson, I take that the committee takes our advice and gives us a go-ahead to advertise the two vacancies. And if that is the case, Chairperson, I'm a little bit worried with trying to run the two interviews at the same time. Chairperson, with ICASA, we're filling four vacancies. And members would know that we need to send there's a pool of 6 names for the minister to appoint the 4 councillors from. And Chair, from the previous experience, we had quite a big number of shortlisted candidates. I think the previous process, Chair, we took 3 days to conduct. So I think, Chair, also the fact that we still have to advertise the MTDA vacancies, it would be a bit difficult to align the two. We will work on publishing the advertisement for those 2 vacancies as soon as possible. But Chair, the advice probably that we run the ICASA, because it's a process that is almost ready for shortlisting and interviewing, as opposed to the MDDA board that must still be advertised. That was that on the issue of the MDDA. Oh, yes, Chair. And I heard, I think, Ms. Singh, when she was talking on the issue, there's currently, Chair, from the pool that Parliament appoints, there's currently one a vacancy, the one that would have arose as a result of, like I said, may her soul rest in peace, of the passing of Dr. Skepas, and the other one is imminent, which will be coming in June, with the expiry of the term of the board chairperson. So there will be 2 with that vacancy, Chair. So if we can advertise now and work to see if at least we can work to ensure that at least before the end of June, if not interviewed, we would have at least shortlisted the candidates for the MDDA board position, Chair. I think, Chairperson, that would be it on the MDDA. And on the issue, Honorable
Timikosi, just before you go to study tour, let's just finish off this. Yeah, so I think we failed to confirm or provide that clarity to you. I am in agreement that we should not take from the current pool because the 6 months has expired, and we should do fresh interviews for the MDDA. We didn't give you that for the record. I think at the committee, if you disagree with this, then you please raise your hands. But I think you needed clarity that we support your recommendation that we do that fresh interviews. I agree with you. I think by the fact I was saying that we should co-join, it meant that we supported it. But then I also agree with you that we shouldn't combine 2. I recall the last time it was 3 days, and it was quite intensive, those interviews. It would be unfair on another fresh set of interviews if another set of interviews if we have to push ourselves to do it on a tired brain after 3 days. So I agree with you. We do that separately. Okay. So I agree with that point there. So now, oh yes, I wanted to deal with the issue of Honorable Shabaleng's concerns regarding the makeup of the subcommittee before we proceed to the study tour. That's why I interjected. What informed the 3111 formula?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I take that you're giving us permission to advertise the 2 MDDA board vacancies to start that process. Right. Thank you, Chair.
That's correct.
Chair, just too quickly on the issue of the composition. Chairperson, remember in the in the 6th Parliament, we had the subcommittees with the same membership, but because at the time in that administration, Chairperson, the ANC was in majority, so that was the reflection also with the subcommittee, wherein we had 7-member subcommittee with 4 members of the ANC. And then 3 members from the other parties, like would have 1 chairperson. And then with the 7th Parliament chairperson and the results thereof and the proportional representation at Parliament, We looked at the numbers and how best we can then constitute the subcommittee. And Chairperson, as we would all know, that in that 7-member committee, it reflects the current proportional representation, where we have ANC with 3 members, which means, Chairperson, it is the largest party, even though it does not have enjoyed the majority. And then, Chairperson, all the other parties were then allocated 1 seat, and then 1 seat, Chairperson, was allocated for the smaller parties, which is why from the smaller parties you'll only see one party sitting in the committee. However, Chairperson, it was agreed in this committee that members are still welcome to sit in the subcommittee and follow the proceedings and make contributions, but that would not take away the fact that the subcommittee would only constituted of the 7 members, and that would then apply when it comes to issues of voting and all that, Chair. But we have not gotten there. But I hope I've explained it, Mr. Nchabeleng. But that is how we arrive at 7. This ANC is the largest party in the National Assembly. It is the largest party in the committee, and it is the largest party in the subcommittee as well. But it does not have a majority. Thank you, Chair. I hope I have explained it, Chairperson, but this matter can then...
Thank you. Thanks to Nkosi for that clarity. We all needed to hear what was the thinking in that, and I think you've explained yourself. It's not proportional, it's equitable, I think, just so that the ANC remains the majority, but remains the largest, but not the majority in the subcommittee. I think that is the rationale that has been used. 3 out of 7 makes it the biggest party, but not the majority party. And the issue surrounding the study tour and the comments of honorable members on that, what is your reflection on that now?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the study tour, Chairperson, the support staff of this committee want to put it before this committee that would want to see this committee going on a benchmarking study tour internationally for purposes of its work, and also, Chairperson, the fact that this is one of the items that appear strongly in the committee's strategic plan, Chairperson. There might have been, or it might seem, there might seem to have been challenges, Chairperson, with putting that up, but Chair, if I can just give a brief background, Chair, that you know the reason why at first the Chinese the planned study tour to the People's Republic of China was postponed. Chair, it was at the request of the Chinese embassy, even though that request came a little bit late to us. But it was at that request, Chair. We tried to look at the other alternative dates even before May, Chair, which would have been a number of inquiries that would have gone to DECO regarding dates that we had proposed that were set to be in April, Chairperson. But unfortunately, because the request for the postponement was related to the 2 sessions of the I think the ruling party in China, Chair, which is why they were specific that they are more than willing to host the committee, but they were only able to do that, Chair, mid-year, which is why then, Chairperson, we would have sent out a communication to DECO, to the Chinese embassy through DECO, to look at the possibility of those days that we had proposed in June, Chair. However, it then came before this committee, as I had indicated earlier, Chair, that there were certain parties or members were not amenable to traveling after the end of May month, which is why, Chairperson, it seems as if there are these challenges. Because, Chair, if this committee were to say to us, we want to go on a study tour by the end of June, and we're given sufficient time, Chair, we want to put together one of the best study tours, Chairperson, that Parliament actually has ever conducted. But the challenge, Chair, is not that we don't have a will, but it was on the date that were proposed to us, Chair, which would have been the coming week, the end of May. So, Chair, we'd really want to plan and see this committee going to an international study tour, provided we at least have sufficient time to plan for that, so that, as members would have said earlier, it does not become like a tick box exercise, but something that not just members but Parliament will also benefit from. That is my response, Chair. But Chairperson, I'm not alone in the Secretariat. I'm not sure why my other colleagues are quiet and not contributing to what, or perhaps responding to some of the issues that are raised in the committee. But thank you, Chair. That's my responses for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Temikosi. The reason why you are responding is because you want to be the main head Secretary General of the Secretariat. So you have to be the Anduna in the front. You have to respond and account. But I think honourable members, we need to. Temikosi, my sense is I wrote 2 words over here. When is the soonest you can take us on an international benchmarking, and what will inform that? Come back to us as soon as possible with tangible. And the thing you learned from these exercises is have more than one option available. And the content advisors should guide you where we should be looking for. Come back to us. And I think the last time we rushed it for May, and rightly so, to accommodate the Democratic Alliance, right? But I think if you get something in June, then the DA will have to, political parties will have to make a principled decision. And then we'll have to work on the basis of the majority who are able to travel will travel. If we find then as a committee, most of our colleagues can't travel, then we may have to defer it until after the local government elections. But I think June is still a month to start to try. I would suggest to you to see what is available. Other than China, if you say China in June, or what else is available based on what the content advisors feel we need to be enriched through an international benchmarking tour. So let's see what you can come up with it. Except I think you've heard honourable members are a little bit despondent, because I think the committee needs the opportunity to reflect and benchmark over international processes. Our committee is a very exceptionally hardworking committee. I don't think many committees in a Friday afternoon successively working at this hours. And I think we need that opportunity to reflect and compare what we are doing to others. And there might be something that we need to find that is sitting in our international benchmarking. But let's keep trying. We can't do anything about Brazil, because if our ambassador to Brazil is saying no, we can't come, then we can't come. There's nothing we can do over there. I mean, the question you need to ask, where else can we go before the end of May? That's maybe a question you can ask. If it's not Brazil, if it's not Saudi, can you go to another country, where Malaysia, I don't know, where there's something that we can be enriched through a meaningful international benchmarking tour. Colleagues, I want to say that if there's no further comments, have we covered the agenda? I think we've covered the agenda. The last item was the study tour. We have dealt with the subcommittee, and you've explained the makeup of the committees. Okay, I think we'll park it off over there, colleagues. It's already 5 minutes past 5. I thought we'd finish earlier, but I think we've dealt with everything we needed to do. And I think substantively also we managed to bring the roundtable report closer to closure, which hopefully will be adopted in the next meeting. Portfolio Committee on Communications, there's a hand up there.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. It's Hajira. Just to inform members that there will be some changes to next week's agenda. I just wanted to also, I know that Mr. Chabaleng indicated that in terms of the house sittings, how we come to apply. I just wanted to show a quick program. If you look there on the program, Mr. Subrata and members, we belong to cluster 4. And when the mini plenary sit, if it coincides or clashes with cluster 4, sittings, which is agriculture, electricity, energy, employment, labor, finance, mineral and petroleum, then there's a letter from the House Chair that we are not allowed to sit. However, if other clusters, for example, cluster 5 Saturday and cluster 2, then we can still make application. And so on that basis, we did that application, and therefore we sit today. And the Chief Whip also gave permission for us to be here. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Subrati.
Yes, Hajira, before we go, there's two important things, Hajira. We can't let you off. The first thing is you mentioned to me that next week, Tuesday, we can't sit because our cluster has a mini plenary next week, Tuesday. That's minerals. Can you please confirm? So that members can plan themselves. They know next week, Tuesday, we are not meeting. I saw the letter, colleagues. The director was very clear from the Honorable Frolic that you can't sit on the date of when your cluster is having a mini plenary. Take us through that quickly, Hajira.
That's correct, Mr. Subrati. So next week, Tuesday, when we're supposed to have a meeting on the 19th of May, our cluster clashes here. We'll have to find a alternate space to put this. At 1900, the content advisors will still elaborate on this. There was a plan for a training workshop, but this is still tentative, and the content advisors can elaborate. I don't know where the process is so far. Also, just to add that we made application for this invitation we received from the IPU. It's a webinar. I did put it on the group. We did get approval because for everything in Parliament, you need approval. It's a virtual meeting between 10 and 11, and members can join. However, I think the chairperson or someone appointed will be giving a presentation at this virtual meeting. On the same day, apologies for this, on the same day, there's the GCIS budget later that day in the National Assembly. Why I highlighted the 26th was we were invited by the Committee on Basic Education, but they cancelled today to say that on that day, they will be conducting their budget vote. So they will reschedule for another day. So there's no clashes for us on this day, but we could substitute something there which we haven't decided yet. And that is that so far. Thank you, Mr. Subrati.
Okay. So we've got two options, right? The one option I'm going to propose is just go up to the one that we can't have next week. That is the 13th. I mean, that is the 19th. No, next week, Tuesday, yeah. GCIS on the finalize and media buying. Still awaiting results of consultant briefing in front of SABC mini plenaries. Or should we program the ICASA one that we had today? This was the one I was thinking of, whether we should bring in ICASA on the 19th, on the 26th rather, on the day that we have a cancellation. And ICASA, indicated they wanted half a day with us. That means a full 9 to 1 session. So we got a choice, either ICASA, the local government elections and the whole workshop around ICASA, the spectrum licensing, the feedback on the MNOs, what they've done, what they haven't done in terms of their license applications. That's a half-day session they wanted, arising from today's meeting. And why I'm giving that prioritizing, it talks to local government elections, and I feel that we need to be informed around LGE as a communication sector. So maybe the content advisors can give us the input. I'm not too sure. Content advisors, what do you think we should prioritize? Dr. Mudupa, are you with us?
I'm here, Chair.
Okay, so
maybe what we
yes.
can do, maybe what we can do, Chair, if you so allow, Chair, is to, with all these changes, including your last input, Chair, maybe we can be allowed to, outside of this meeting, just to have a look at what we've just proposed, particularly around the LGE, on how then best to incorporate that, and given the constraints on the time that we're faced with, we can provide that as soon as possible, Chair, even before. Maybe the earliest we can do that is on Monday morning to the members in terms of what is it that we're proposing, both based on the changes and the possibility of not having the meeting next week, Tuesday. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Subrati? Apologies, members. I'm just trying to get hold of Mr. Subrati. Mr. Matafa, we've lost Mr. Subrati. Are you able to take over?
Ajira, I see there's no response from Mr. Matafa, and I've also just struggled to get hold of Mr. Subrati. I think I'll be guided by the members on the platform, but I think this item you just presented was probably the last item, and I'm sure those changes will be communicated to members via the group. So if we are struggling to get hold of the acting chair, I think it would be safe for us to then just propose the adjournment of the meeting, if the members on the platform so allow. Mr. Nchabeleng, Ms. Chauke, can we propose closure? Honorable members, with all that being said, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.